Pumping the brakes on divorce, or go ahead and finalize the separation. Reddit, I don't know what to do. Context. Both roughly 40 years old, 2 kids elementary age, house in the suburbs, typical suburban family. About 6 months ago my wife came to me and said I want a divorce. No chance of reconciliation, no doubt in her mind. But peaceful. And I'll be fair, it was peaceful, it was respectful, there was no infidelity, there wasn't even much tension or drama to it. To be blunt, I think we've both been unhappy a long time. Long list of you don't do this countered by well you don't do that. We both contributed to the problems. It just wasn't working. So she came up with a plan, and I agreed to it. Told our friends and family what's happening, including our kids. Totally embarrassing and humiliating to go through that. Sold the old house, I moved to an apartment, she bought a more modest home she could afford. We settled on a parenting, custody arrangement and child support and money. No lawyers, all mediated, all relatively peaceful. I have the kids about 1/3 of the time, mostly weekends. Because I work full-time in an office, while she works part-time from home and has unlimited flexibility. All of this has pretty much nuked my life. I feel shame around everyone I know, like it's a reflection on me and what I didn't do right. I sold a house I loved, in a neighborhood I loved, with neighbors I loved and hung out with all the time. I radically downsized my life in the move process, trashed tons of old memorabilia and collectibles, some of which I regret, but knowing I would move to an apartment I didn't feel like I could or should take much with me. I was sad to let go of so much along the way. But I've built a new, clean, simple lifestyle and I really like where I am now. The changes to her life, not so great. Single mom, and she's got custody 2/3 of the time because of her job situation. I pay a fairly healthy child support payment because I was the breadwinner. But it still sets her up for tight finances. She's frustrated with how much work the kids are. I think she forgets that I did all the cooking, she barely knows how, a lot of the housework. And was the main financial provider. She has very little free time now. And her place is a mess, still living out of boxes and suitcases. She's very angry I've moved on, cleanly and simply, and resettled so quickly. And now she wants to work on things, see if we can reconcile. We have a draft of the final separation agreement, we just haven't signed it yet. The state we live in requires one of those life apart and wait 12 months things before a divorce can be final. On the one hand, that's my wife. The mother of my children. Of course I still love her. But I also acknowledge the old problems haven't been addressed at all. I see no evidence things have changed, only an acknowledgement that she wants to. But how does that even work when I'm living apart and we spend no time together? But in fairness, she didn't cross any boundaries like cheating or spending a ton of stupid money. She didn't trash me behind my back. All that to say, no red lines were crossed for me. On the other hand, a life I enjoyed has been nuked. I've moved away from a place I loved, and let go of things I didn't want to, shouldn't have had to. She created this mess, entirely because she skipped over the part where you can get marriage counseling and moved straight onto giving up on us. She had some trauma during COVID and how that impacted her life, but our marriage was outside of that. I think she projected a lot of non-related problems in her life into the marriage. She's asked to go to counseling, and kinda started to get into some of the things we could work on. But she seems to gloss over the part where she's nuked a life I enjoyed. Acts like I can just move into her new place and it's no big deal. But let's definitely focus on how we both got us into this mess. I just have a hard time accepting that premise. We both made our marriage less than ideal, but only one of us totally fucked our situation. We were just about to sign the final separation paperwork. I'm not sure if I still should. Feels like I'm slamming a door in her face when I am open to counseling. Yet at the same time, if we can't work things out, it feels like we reset the clock on everything by not signing. And my confidence is low because I still don't think she's accepting how much she's escalated the situation by handling this so poorly. Sorry for length. Appreciate the sanity check. I appreciate perspectives that challenge me to think about things differently, so fire away. Sign it and be done. She doesn't want you. She just doesn't like how much harder her life is without you there to pick up the slack for her. She's been selfish throughout the entire thing, only thinking about herself, what she wants, what she's had to deal with since the separation she asked for. She has done all of the taking and none of the giving or trying. This isn't a relationship worth trying to save because she doesn't care about anyone but herself. From what I can read be very careful. If you do want to reconcile, make sure it's a two people's effort. She only realized what she lost once she was alone and pretty much broke. I'm not saying she only wants you for that, but I think it plays a role. Couples counseling seems like a great idea to resolve the problems you guys have. And if you do end up reconciling, maybe make her compromise so you don't do everything around the house. Good luck, op. At no part in this lengthy post did you say, "I love her and want to be with her again." Because of that, no. It's done. Continue your grieving for what you lost. Move on. Sign it and move on. Seems like she's realized life as a single mom isn't so easy after all. It's not you she misses having it easy. I mean, go ahead and take her back if you are ready to have the whole thing start over again. She realized this time she didn't have her shit together, and didn't have a backup plan. She now wants you back. She doesn't truly appreciate you, she just wants things to be easier again. The next time she leaves you she will have a backup plan to take of her. Oof. Well, it sounds like reality has settled in for both of you. The thing is, there are still different realities between the two of you. I think she needs to do some counseling on her own. Do you think she would go for that? Suggest you get some too. Pause the paperwork but don't tell anyone that's what's happening, cause it's none of their business. You will both probably need 6 months in individual counseling to understand what you want next. Suggest you don't date at all, including each other, in that time. Do you have all the childcare and finances agreed in writing? As you've said, absolutely nothing has changed. There's no guarantee that counseling will change anything either. It's up to you, but I don't see a positive outcome, particularly if she's not acknowledging the damage she's done to your life. Move on with your life. Sign it. She went and destroyed your life with no effort put in to save the marriage. You won't get over that. She only wants you back for practical reasons, not emotional ones. White boyfriend, 30M. Does things that I, 30F, think are racist. He doesn't agree. I'm Asian American, parents from China and hardly speak English. And my boyfriend of 2 years is French, living in California for 5 years. I understand that there will always be some level of cultural difference, but I think he's gone over the line many times, and we've talked about this more times than I can count. The latest incident. I met his grandma and she did the Asian slant eye gesture while saying how she has always wanted her kids and grandkids to date Asians. I was deeply uncomfortable but didn't say anything in the moment. I understand it was meant to be a compliment, but it did bother me. After returning to the US I had a talk with him about the gesture and how it made me uncomfortable, and that I would really appreciate if he told his grandma that it was a rude gesture, not to tell her that she was racist, but just tell her that it's rude in the US. He was confused but ultimately seemed to understand and support me. The next day we were out with friends and he put his fingers on my eyes and pulled them to make the gesture. I was really upset and told him not to do that. The next morning I had a talk with him and asked him why he did it. He said he thought it was an inside joke because I knew he wasn't racist. I told him it made me really uncomfortable and we had a long talk again about why it was unacceptable. He apologized and said he wouldn't do it again. Other things he has done, said. Asked me if I was sure the Atlanta shooting was racially motivated. Said that he didn't understand that I would be affected by Asian hate crimes because I'm American. Says that it's important to question whether a crime is actually racially motivated or not. I agree with this. But I also feel he doesn't acknowledge the tragedy of crimes and jumps straight to questioning. Stated multiple times that it's better to not be white in the US because people seem to hold grudges against white people, privilege, etc. I've had many talks with him about this and I just don't think he understands how or why I'm offended. He questions why everything is so racially charged and sensitive and says that he isn't racist, and that I should have more trust. I'm at the end of my rope because we fundamentally disagree. Outside of this, while he isn't perfect, he is generally kind and considerate, and a good boyfriend. Is this something that can be reconciled? If so, how can I get through to him that I need him to educate himself a bit on racism? Too long did not read. French boyfriend does not think some things are racist while I do. How can I explain to him that some actions are just not respectful to me? If someone tells me on multiple occasions that they are uncomfortable with comments about their weight, and I continue to make jokes about fat people around them but insist I'm not being malicious because I'm just kidding around, I'm still being a deliberately disrespectful jerk. Your boyfriend is doing that, but with race. Wow, he's so racist that he defends things that are clearly racist. I've had many talks with him about this and I just don't think he understands how or why I'm offended. To me, this is a deal-breaker. I don't need a partner that understands why I am offended, just one that believes and supports me in all of my feelings. It seems like you have given him plenty of time and opportunities to do better and show empathy, and he is choosing not to do that. He is who he is, and you need to decide if you want to be with him knowing that he will probably not change. It is up to you if that is a deal-breaker, but it certainly would be for me. Yeah, so the guy is pretty ignorant and culturally unaware. You're going to have to be more insistent with him about his behavior for him to change. Like, this isn't going to work out with us if you continue to think and behave this way. Unfortunately, it's become fashionable, in some circles, to be bigoted, misogynistic and intolerant of non-Christian religions in this country. The whole white rage thing. The rest of us need to make it clear that we won't tolerate that kind of thing. Asked me if I was sure the Atlanta shooting was racially motivated. It doesn't actually matter if an event like this is racially motivated or not. The important thing is it generates discussion about racism in general and helps people see how racism is both prevalent in the United States and how we can try to prevent it in the future. Living in Minneapolis, the George Floyd murder was close to me and my neighborhood. Whether that lone incident was racist, to me, isn't the issue or reason why I was upset. It's the fact that things like this have happened because of racism and continue to happen because of racism. There is no explanation for the Asian eye slant gesture that isn't racist. Never mind him constantly playing devil's advocate when it comes to hate crimes. It sounds like you are doing the best you can to explain how you feel and the way it affects you. He's being a total jerkwad. I know you're better than this, but go ahead and start picking at him for his French heritage. If he's allowed to be racist, then surely you're allowed to be racist too, right? Give him a little taste of his own medicine. See how he likes it. There's plenty of French stereotypes out there at your disposal. You don't have to be mean or over the top about it, but just enough for him to get the hint. You already have explained to him multiple times. It's on him to listen to you. French people are some of the dumbest, most racist people on the planet. None of this surprises me. Girlfriend, 21F, revealed that she tested me, 22M, by canceling our first time. So 3 months back when we were a couple weeks into dating, she picked the night that we'd have sex, she brought it up and everything, we were both excited etc. etc. The night comes and she tells me she isn't feeling ready yet and I'm like okay cool let's cook and watch something whatever. We wound up doing it for the first time that same week. Fast forward to last night, we're just pillow talking and she tells me she knew I was a decent guy when she tested me by doing that and I didn't react or change at all. I asked what do you mean tested? She said that she does this with all the guys she dates. She says we're gonna do it for the first time on day X, then shows up that day and says she's not ready yet to see how they react. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her has a guy ever thrown a hissy fit after, she said no but most of them would be a bit cold after. I asked her how many guys passed this test, she said me and one other guy who had to move for school. I asked if she broke up with them once they failed, she said sometimes. I asked how they reacted when she told them about it and she said she's never told a guy this before. I told her I'm not sure I'm comfortable with someone who tests people, especially that she seemed so proud of it. Like if she felt that it was a necessary evil or something and she had to do it then maybe I could look past it. But no, she was so happy with herself while I was asking her questions about this process till I told her how I felt about it. Everything else about her and the relationship is great and I never expected this from her, which is why I don't know what to do. On one hand she's amazing and ticks quite a few important boxes for me, like a religiousness, rare where I'm from, high sex drive, ambitious. On the other I'm not sure if I can feel at ease in a relationship with someone who tests people. I feel like I'd be paranoid all the time. Some more info is that this was not the first time for either of us and she has not been sexually assaulted before. For now I have asked her not to text or call me while I think which she has not respected and I have not responded to her texts. Any feedback especially from guys who have dealt with girls like this would be appreciated. I can understand her reasons for testing you. From a purely logical perspective, it's a pretty good test. It weeds out many men who might take much longer to show their true colors. And as a woman, a very very deep fear is the possibility of rape or abuse. Having sex and meeting men is very risky. On the other hand, the test is super manipulative. So yeah, I can't tell you how to feel about it. I'd probably feel similarly. But if she hasn't lied to you about anything else, you might be able to get past this by saying, flat out, never again. From now on, never again. If you want to know something, you ask. Make sure she gets your perspective, too. But I wouldn't blame you if this is too much, either. Gonna get downvoted to all hell, but I can see where she is coming from. I wouldn't want to be with someone who got upset if we didn't have sex that day. I would have a conversation with her if she often tests you. She clearly feels comfortable with you to tell you about the test, which in my opinion is a good sign. Oof. This is a tough one. Like, she could have just let things flow, and if sex was brought up in the moment, go from there. IDK if that made sense. She could have just as easily gotten a googage for how someone is for denying them in the moment. Leading them on is a total dick move. Something I haven't seen anyone else bring up yet is that she isn't respecting your wishes to be left alone and think. I think that's another pretty decent-sized red flag. Honestly, the test to see if they flip shit when denied sex isn't nearly as harmful as the test to see if he'd cheat on me by having my friend hit on him, or test to see if he cares about me by ghosting him for a week. Shit. It still is manipulative, by nature, but much less of a "ha, I caught you in a situation I manufactured," and more of a "now I know if you get violent if I withdraw consent." I get the disdain for people who test partners like that, but this particular test doesn't sound too harmful, and actually sounds like a pretty good idea for a woman. For now I have asked her not to text or call me while I think, which she has not respected. This, I think, is an entirely separate issue, and one that is equally important to be concerned about. Honestly, this is like the only relationship test that I can get behind. I've had many friends end up in relationships with men who pressure them into sex or even force them, and it's often not obvious from the beginning. Ideally you give your partner full trust, but she may not feel safe sleeping with people until she knows they'd respect her changing her mind, and it isn't personal. Regardless of the test, not respecting your request for time to figure it out is problematic, but you may want to consider whether it was this one thing that she felt she needed to gauge your reaction on, or if she's going to be testing you about everything. Women have to be careful. Not every guy is walking around with their red flags on display, so stuff like this isn't as crazy as you're making out emo. As a person prone to depression and anxiety, having a person I can cancel with is important to me. I have issued similar tests early in dating for that reason. It's not intentional, but I'll often cancel a loose plan with plenty of lead time and reschedule for a later date. If the man I'm seeing gets manipulative, explosive, or otherwise reacts in a way that feels unsafe or disrespectful, I stop dating them. Feeling like I can use my autonomy safely is important to me, and not guaranteed for young women. And some of the explosive men are not the ones you'd expect. So, I get where she's coming with the test, but telling you was effed up. Instead she could have just said, I feel so safe and respected by you, and that means a lot to me. Am I making a mistake, or did I outgrow my husband? I, 33 female, met my 36 male husband when I was 20 and he was 23. Over the past years, I've finished school, become reasonably successful in my career, and identified my goals. During this same time, he has been in retail management and slowly getting promoted within his company at a store level. He has goals for promotion, but hasn't been interested in anything more, either professionally or personally. He is kind and supportive, but he does not understand what I do, does not ask me about my day, finds it hard to have deeper conversations about our future, and isn't interested in seeking higher education because he doesn't know what to do, but hasn't attempted to research or explore his options. Over the past few years, I've found myself having to remind him of small things, some things consistent with ADHD, others not, like basic household chores, following through with the things he offered to do, or helping our families with the things he promised. When I try to have conversations on our future or his goals, it's vague and I have to pull information from him. When we first met, his kindness and flexible demeanor were positive attributes, but now I feel like I have to be the one to guide our future without any input from my partner. The decision fatigue from work makes this overwhelming and, honestly, not what I need anymore. All of this has been getting to me and I feel more like his mother than his spouse. We spoke about what I need, conversations, household support, and feeling like I have grown and evolved into a different version of myself that I really like, and he only stated that he thought I was happy and feels blindsided. I asked him to show me he is willing and capable of growth, but I'm already questioning his ability for sustained change. I don't know what to do, other than admit I haven't been happy the last few years and I want out. Am I being too harsh, or am I just realizing that I've grown into a different person in the 13 years we've been together while my husband has remained all but the same? I feel more like his mother than his spouse. That's a big issue, and a huge reason people end up divorcing their partners. If you think it is worth giving your relationship a final chance, you could try suggesting couples counseling, But sometimes people just grow in ways that are mutually incompatible, and that's okay too. It sounds like you have already checked out of the marriage, and there is nothing wrong with that. Part of your post reminds me of this. But he may not realize he's doing it, worth a conversation. He may never grow into the person you need him to be. He still has the basic qualities you fell in love with, but that isn't enough to keep you happy now. Whether it's harsh or not, it's evidently your truth. He deserves someone who loves him unequivocally and who is happy being with him. So do you. It sounds like you now want more of a kind of partner. Marriage counseling won't turn him into a higher education-seeking person. Why is that so important to you now? It also sounds like he might want to be evaluated for ADHD. If he has it, there are treatments for it. It might not change anything enough to save your marriage, but perhaps it may. Only you can decide whether you want to wait to see if he changes enough to suit you now. Definitely don't get pregnant with him, since you sound like you've ended the relationship without ending it yet. Wait until you're positive about your partner. You're bored. You're free to do what suits you best, but you are being harsh. Wish you luck, lady. Kind is a rare trait, and even rarer amongst people who make it past their mid-20s single. Kind people don't get divorced very often, and they usually do get married. You're in for some fun is all I can say. Grass is greenest where you water it. Don't let your career success go to your head. Sounds like you let your career get to your head and want an upgrade. Were these things a problem when you both made the same amount of money? Sound like you are growing personalities, career, financially. And your husband is not growing as much as you. He might be happy at where he's at. But are you happy for him? Or you are expecting him to be like you? More importantly, are you happy at where you're at? Better yet, will you ever be happy with you?